Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's selection comes at us from Bertle. Karsikko is a ritual marking, usually in a tree, but have been found on rocks as well. They were often left on the way to a funeral, somewhere on the way between the grave and the home of the deceased. It was believed among Finns of old that the spirits of the dead would rise back up one day. Under the fears that they would return and haunt their former homes, a karsikko was made to guide the spirits to enter the woods and ward them away from their former homes. That's important because today's track is called Karsikko. Now, other than that, I don't know anything about this, other than it seems to be a one-person band. I only know that because Spotify has a little artist image over here. There's only one person in it. Usually that's pretty indicative of that. Also, this came out just a few weeks ago, February 14th. Some brand new music here. The band's called Vermilia. Let's dive in and see what they're bringing to the table today. So we have big metal guitars, but we have some folk music being played alongside that. Very large, teetering on epic, I would say. That main melody. It's been present for this full first minute. Very catchy. I like the tom heavy focus here, no cymbals at all. Getting some power behind the vocals. Is there growling underneath too? I just realized how close his vocal melody is to that catchy lead melody. Very cool layering of the cleans and harshes of some sort. Okay. I like that cymbal work.
Karsikko puhun nimesi, hakata kunnes päiväsi koittaa. Vanhan perinteen eteenpäin tiemme, pimeyden puoli voittaa. Pimeyden puoli voittaa. Pimeyden puoli voittaa. Pimeyden puoli voittaa.
Yeah, I like that we had that moment there to hear the vocal stack. All right, yeah, that was a fun track. I don't know if fun's necessarily the word that they might have wanted me to use for it, but it has an adventurous vibe, semi epic. It definitely feels like it's folk metal, but it also has a dash of power metal. There we go. A little bit of that epic, adventure feel going on. Great production overall. I like some of the layering techniques going on here. And I do like some of the connectivity of it all. I mentioned early on that the I don't know what instrument it is. It's probably just like a violin, but it sort of sounds slightly accordion-esque to me. But it's the lead melody line that we get at the beginning of the track that I mentioned was very catchy. We actually remove some of the flourish from it and make it more of a standard melody. We toss that on the vocals for the verse. I think that's very cool how we get to hear this same melody in two places, in two forms. I think it does a great job of keeping the song feeling rather connected. We do have nice movement too from the verse to the chorus. We'll touch on that in a second. I think generally the song has pretty good pacing, direction, contrast, fluidity, and flow, and I like how everything feels very connected. I do have one criticism, but we're going to hang on to that until the end. I might even just forget about it. It's really not that big of a deal, and it's my usual criticism for music, anyways, so. I do like the atmosphere of this, though. It has a very folkish feeling as far as the chord progression and main melody go. Um, it has a lot of movement to it. I like that dun da dun dun da dun dun, keeping that rhythmic flow throughout most of this. That embellishment, the da dun dun da dun dun, that quicker movement is what gets removed when we adapt that melody for the vocals in the verse. All of this, those quicker moving ideas, the rising and falling flow of that melody itself, this is what creates a lot of positive movement in this track. It's what makes it feel as satisfying as it does to listen to. The chord progression is what gives us this larger than life, semi epic feeling. It's definitely a song that, as stereotypical as it is, if there was a music video for it, it would be shot with a drone circling around a musician on a mountaintop or a hill, probably. Um, like I said, cliche for sure, but it fits that vibe so well. And a lot of it comes down to the folkish note choices in here, which give it a lot of freedom in its movement. When we pair the freedom that kind of comes emotionally from it with those quicker moving ideas, it just feels very open and freeing and open ended, like anything can happen. It's the chords actually underneath that give it that larger than life feeling. And this is why I say that it's sort of quasi epic, because it pulls more from folk, I think, and sits within, like, if I had to classify this, I'd probably say like folk metal, but it does have some of that power metal epicness in the chord progression. And I kind of find that there is an interesting clash there. Usually, adventurous, open-ended, woodsy kind of folkish stuff pairs well with epic, larger than life vibes. For here, though, they kind of they kind of clash a little bit. And I don't know why. It could be a specific chord in the progression that I just never clicked into, but it kind of it pulls the reins in a little bit on the scope. And I think it actually works to its benefit because this could have gone into like massive epic scope, larger than life, like totally too big of a scope for the song, especially given what the song is probably about lyrically, given its title. I mean, we're talking about symbols that you would put on the earth pretty low down on rocks and trees in order to help ward spirits to where they need to go instead of, you know, sitting around your house. That's not necessarily a larger than life epic adventure. It feels very grounded, it feels very rooted as far as like the human component of it. Now, once you get into the spiritual, yeah, it can kind of like expand in scope a little bit. But I think that's what is happening here. And I kind of wish I knew how this was happening. It's a skill I would love to have because I don't understand how you can use epic chords and still make it feel rooted and grounded and singular in a way. I think that's pretty awesome. And right from the start, I mean, that's one of the opening sounds on the song, and it immediately sets the atmosphere for this. It lets you know, yeah, this is going to be pretty big, but not that big. And it's going to be fun, and it's going to be dancey. It's going to have a nice groove to it. All of this introduced in that first section. This moves into the chorus, which introduces. Another thing about the verse that keeps it rooted is the drum work being primarily tom with snare. It keeps everything really low down in pitch and energy. There's lots of movement, sure, but not a lot of explosive energy, not a lot of high pitch stuff going on. The cymbal work comes in the chorus, and I enjoy this generally. There's crash cymbals that just kind of make a lot of noise in here, but there's also some really light, fun, dexterous ride cymbal work as well. I never quite picked up on the pattern of when we hear one and when we hear the other, but I'm sure there's some sort of pattern to it. I think that works really well with the more bombastic vocals, where in the verse, it's a bit more of a chest, lower range, very comfortable. Here, when we get into the chorus, we've kind of pushed up probably about 3/4 of an octave. And we got a lot more air pressure behind it. It feels louder, it feels more directed. It's a very full vocal style. And when we pair that with the new guitar lines that are creating this big sound, and we have the cymbal work in here, and we have strings off on the left, kind of filling in atmosphere. There's a little bit of melodic movement to it, but it's trying its best not to take the focus away from the lead vocals here in the center. This is just a big moment. And it's a nice contrast between the two. I'm curious what's going on lyrically here that would show us this contrast, but just from a purely musical standpoint, this is what you want to do in music. You want to have this ebb and flow, your peaks and valleys. You want to make it a fun ride for the listener. Everything in this section bleeds into this. This does feel a bit larger than the first section, not just in size or volume, but also harmonically. There's a lot more energy in the chord progression here. And again, it makes me wonder what's going on here lyrically in the chorus that would justify all this. Musically, it's definitely the right direction to go in. And then we kind of taper things back off. We do the intro again with the opening melody. We transfer that melody to the vocals. We have lower energy, just toms and snare on the drums. And then we build back into the chorus. Now, there's something going on in a bridge, possibly. It sort of just bides its time. We get a little bit of that opening lick back, and then it sort of just hovers for, I don't know, 4 bars, maybe tops. It's kind of sitting around this energy, feeling like it wants to build into something, but mostly just sitting there, existing. And then we get a final chorus. It really doesn't take up that much space or length of time. It kind of doesn't do anything. It's primarily just a buffer for the two choruses. In a sense, I really don't even want to include it as a section itself. This song is just verse, chorus, verse, chorus, chorus. And we just end up hearing that chorus a lot at the end of the track. This is my only criticism for it. It just feels like it's missing something there in the middle, something to help separate our two final choruses. A bridge, it's a pretty typical song structure here, is to throw a bridge between your two final choruses. And I like the chorus. I do. It's solid, it's catchy, lots of power, it's got a great hook. This is definitely a good song to introduce somebody to the band. If they like the chorus, yeah. If they like more mainstream palatable music, they're probably going to enjoy the chorus, even if this type of folk metal isn't their usual jam. There's a lot of good things going for it here, but to me, it just needs a little bit of buffer there. Having the chorus played, because I think each chorus we actually hear it twice. So at the end of the song, we hear the chorus 4 times back to back, and that's just a bit much for me. There is, however, a little bit of alteration to it, and I do appreciate this. This has actually existed in other parts of the song too, is layering of vocals. I think this is my favorite part of the song, because otherwise it's a fairly straightforward folk metal track. But we have these vocal layers. We have these harshes under the cleans. And the harshes actually change. Sometimes they're a bit lower, sometimes they're a bit higher. Sometimes it's a full stack like we saw at the end, and that's actually where the final chorus excels, is that we do hear some variation on what the vocals are delivering there in that final chorus. It does feel fuller, it feels larger. We have this new almost growl existing underneath the vocals. It's a very cool sound. I think it's neat to kind of see, because like in pop music, this would be the time when the vocalist starts ad-libbing over the final chorus and just showing off a little bit. Vocal modulation is typically what we get on final choruses. This is all over pop music, radio rock, even emo music. Your final chorus, your vocalist might take things up an octave, or instead of doing a run down, they might do a run up at the end of like the second bar or something like that. It's always vocal work that gets modified for the outro of a song. And so we see more of that here. I think it's a great way to go about doing this. We've changed the vocal stack. I like it. It's also very interesting to hear these harsh vocals here. They're different. I almost want to say that there's some digital modulation to them, but I honestly don't know. People make the wildest sounds with their vocal cords and their throat and all this muscular stuff that go into mouth shapes too, and like I don't know, man. I've heard people make some gnarly sounds. I don't want to write it off at this point, but it's a very unique low growl that's going on there, and I like how it does change up the final chorus a little bit and introduces my ears to something new. I'm totally on board with that. And that about wraps this up. I think the song does a great job of feeling large, having a little bit of variation, tying everything together. It is very palatable, though. It's a very safe sound overall, I think. And that's, for better or worse. I'm a huge fan of bridge music, stuff that's going to attract people to a genre they don't usually listen to. And I think there are a lot of components of this that I think you'd still have to be a metal listener, but it would definitely be a way to entice people into the realm of folk metal, and even, like I said, a dash of power metal in there. But as far as vocal work goes, as far as atmosphere goes, this is very palatable in the best way. I really want that to be a compliment. So many things went right in this to make it sound good to listen to. And I'm kind of intrigued about the rest of the album. It's only 40 minutes long. Most of the songs are around the length of this. Their most popular song, though, is 7 minutes long. I'd love to see what they do with that. Hopefully, a little less repetition, but I'd still love to see more of the continuation of ideas musically. So, all right, now a part I've been looking forward to. lyrics. I really want to know how this epic folksy vibe fits into this idea of creating these markings to help direct spirits to where they need to go. All right, so we have a song about. I mean, we kind of explored a little bit earlier in the context of what a Karsikko is. And we have a song about that, about trying to create these karskos, these images into trees to direct spirits to where they need to go. The first verse says, "In the midst of words of sorrow, they swallow their throats full of emptiness. The cold landscape paints the hound shades of the sun in the air, where disappeared the snow-risen, spell-made spirits. Deaf, quiet sounds echo in the walls of the rock." It paints a very vivid image of this sort of afterlife vibe of these spirits who are just sort of wandering around right here. It says, "In the crossroads of the past life, the spirits and gods meet, and in the darkness of the realm they revel, drinking until they're drunk. Your name is struck into the Karsikko tree until your day comes. The mountain of darkness triumphs over those carrying the old tradition. So in the depths of the woods of sorrow, moss sleeps in the groves. Those ferried by the beauty of the moon shall drown in those false words. Do the longing still echo from afar? The weeping and looks of evening far carry the gazes of cadavers, a birth covered in a veil." Very interesting way to describe all of this. It talks a lot about the spiritual side of life where the spirits get to meet the old gods and they get to drink, and when they're done they need to look for these shapes, these symbols in the trees, the karsikos, so that they can know where they're supposed to go, of how they can move on to the next realm. The chorus simply states, "Slumber, mundane earth, you'll be carried far away. Underneath black earth we yell, into the bosom of underworld we get to fall." So this seems like the spirits talking about being able to move to the underworld and being carried there through this passage that is underneath the earth. And the Karsikko, I believe, is supposed to guide them towards these funnels, whatever's supposed to be this transport between here and there. So yeah, there's a lot of elements in here that kind of speak about nature as a whole, kind of bring in the spiritual side of things and where the two worlds meet. It's very large and vast, and I also love how it's not necessarily directly on the nose about it all. It's not a song that says, "Hey, there's spirits here, and we put the Karsikkos in the trees, and you spirits need to go follow those," or anything like that. It kind of takes this, I don't know, the long way around explaining all of this. It takes the scenic passage in the lyrics, and I like that. Technically that's only the first half of the lyrics, but everything on the back half is repetition of stuff that we've that was sung earlier. But I just love the imagery of all of this, the sorrowful moss that sleeps in the groves in the depths of the woods. It just paints a very specific picture of this, this section of the forest. um and it talks about how these spirits need guidance to get to the other side. The chorus is about, being carried to the bosom of the underworld. And we get to go there. It seems like a positive thing. Into the bosom of the underworld we get to fall. We have the opportunity to go to. Just need a little bit of direction, and that's where the Karsikko come in. So yeah, this idea of very folkish, very pagan and spiritual, but also sort of feeling like an epic journey. In death, getting to explore this, meet the gods, and then find your way to the underworld, and this entire, pocket of experiences here. I think it fits the music rather well. These are my thoughts on Karsikko by Vermilia. Let me know what you thought of this. If there's anything that stood out to you, anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on, maybe you have your own thoughts, opinions, or perspectives on this track, please put all of that down in the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. All right, that wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.